and gentlemen, stand up and get loud for the greatest talk show in television history, everybody.
Welcome, everybody, to Fans Talk Pro Wrestling. This is episode 412, being recorded on Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. My name is Nick, and with me this week, as per usual, is Adam. How's it going, Adam?
Not too bad, Nick. How you doing?
I am doing just dandy. For tonight's episode, this is going to focus primarily on this year's Elimination Chamber. Pay-per-view is a wrong word for it, but they haven't really given it any other titles, so pay-per-view works just as well, I guess. This Sunday, February 25th. Yes, 5th. So
25th.
Yeah, we're going to focus a lot on that. We may also discuss a little bit of Fastlane happening in a little over 2 weeks' time. A lot of matches were booked for that on last night's SmackDown. We're also going to be talking a little bit of news and current events. So let's go ahead and kick off with that. Maybe starting off with a big one. Jeff Jarrett was confirmed for this year's Hall of Fame class. I don't necessarily know if he fits in with the whole Attitude Era vibe of this year's class that we've got going on, but I guess he's kind of in that vein. But yeah, they made a whole video package about it. It's especially notable in that this is another personage that Impact beat WWE with its own Hall of Fame. But yeah, Jeff Jarrett is going into the Hall of Fame. Does that give you any sort of feelings, Adam?
No, not particularly.
Yeah.
I mean, is he... That's the only thing I'm interested about. Is he, like, the main attraction for this year's Hall of Fame?
I think that's meant to be Goldberg.
Okay.
I would assume.
Have they already announced Goldberg as well? I've been kind of...
Yeah, he was the first one announced.
Okay.
They announced Ivory, like, last week?
That's right. They announced... Yeah, that's right. I remember now. So yeah, Jarrett in the Hall of Fame is fine with me. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say he did a whole heck of a lot to the contributions of the WWE zeitgeist, but you know, he's a part of history, you know. So I'm fine.
Yeah,
with it.
Jarrett was only he didn't get very far. So. Yeah, they are kind of running out of people. So he had to go in at some point, I imagine. But
yeah,
apparently he was a 6-time Intercontinental Champion.
Yep.
Which
I believe he
wow.
was the dude. I believe he was the dude that China won it off of as well, if I recall.
Yeah, in the article I'm finding, yes, that was the case. It also turned out to be his final match in the company, I guess.
Yeah, that was it. That's probably like his most notable WWE claim to fame, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but hey, there you go.
Yeah, I've also seen a lot of people tossing around his biggest contribution to wrestling, which a lot of people have been saying was him smashing a little person over the head with his guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was a good wrestling segment. I don't know if good is a word for it, but like it fits Jarrett.
I do like beanbags' possible prediction.
I can't find a list for this year's Hall of Fame class. I want to say it's more than just Goldberg, Jarrett, and Ivory, but I can't for the life of me think of who else would be in it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself.
The Dudleys?
Yeah, that's right. The Dudleys. I remember that now.
I guess so.
Yeah, they were mentioned.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I feel like, yeah, I guess just for whatever reason, I figured they already went in, but maybe I'm just conflating that with Impact's Hall of Fame.
No, they were definitely announced a couple weeks back. I remember that.
So yeah, Jarrett in the Hall of Fame. He great. Moving on from that, we'll touch on a few things in and around WWE and indie wrestling as a whole. But it was just recently confirmed by the New Orleans State Athletic Commission that pile drivers and blood will be banned from any and all wrestling shows happening around Mania weekend. Apparently that has been the case for going on forever now, but it's just recently coming up into light again as we are on the road to WrestleMania. A number of wrestlers like David Starr have made it a point of making PSAs for wrestlers, especially those traveling from abroad, because promotions like Progress are coming in to have shows on Mania weekend, like as part of WrestleCon and elsewhere. It doesn't necessarily surprise me that this is taking place, given that there are different states that are a lot more draconian than that. And some of the restrictions make sense. Like every wrestling promotion must have an EMT on staff. There must be an ambulance parked within like walking distance of the venue in case anything happens. And some of them are really dumb. Like New York doesn't allow intergender competition. So yeah, some of them are really dumb, but yeah, what do you think, Adam? Like, do you think this is like no pile drivers, no blood? Does that make sense? Like, is that going a little too far, or is it kind of just right?
Pile drivers, at least in WWE, has been such a thing for such a long time that I'm kind of used to it. I would have been kind of shocked to see a pile driver anyway, just because it's been so long since we've seen one. The no blood is a little bit regrettable, but at the same time, I am also a firm believer that you don't necessarily need color to, certain matches, obviously, you do want that color to kind of add just a little bit more table dressing to the intensity of the match. But of the matches that I have a feeling will be booked at WrestleMania and possibly the other shows, I think maybe with the exception of Cody versus Kenny, I can't really see too much need for blood. Maybe if they hold off on Gargano Almas until then, maybe that one could use blood too, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't expect this to really affect anything going on within the WWE itself. Depending on who's putting on a show down in New Orleans around that time, which it seems to be fucking everybody, but for companies like CZW or like the WWN, the owner, the parent company of Evolve, is putting on an event called Matt Riddle's Bloodsport. I imagine that could impact what they do with that event. Just kind of looking at what else is going on that weekend, like Joey Janela's Spring Break, that could very well be impacted. CZW is in fact holding a show on the 7th. But yeah, like I don't know. I'm not necessarily against that. Like the no blood rule, no pile drivers rule. Because yeah, if you fuck something up like that, that could end a career. I don't necessarily mind that for one weekend, some wrestlers can't go to the well on hardcore stuff. I do find it weird that this is like a standing rule all around. Just because we know better about a lot of that stuff now. Like there's no Abdullah the Butcher knowing that he's infected and still going around blading people with razors that he's cut himself with. Like wrestlers get tested now. That's just standard for the industry. So I feel like the no blood rule is a little bit regressive. No pile drivers is debatable, but on the whole, it is what it is.
I think too, it depends on, who possibly violates that rule. I mean, arguably there was a no blood rule or like no chair shots to the head rule that has also been facilitated by WWE for a very long time. And there are certain talent who know they can get away with it and do, so for me, like blood especially is something that is very tantamount to what is what the match is. I don't want to see blood in every single match. I don't want to not see blood in every single match either, but like it really does depend on the narrative and drama and what's happening in the match to push it over to that upper echelon. So there is a possibility that even though these rules may stand, that one or two, people who can either afford to take any fines or what have you, or whatever other punishment may be incurred, might still do it anyway.
Yeah, like I could definitely see. I don't know if GCW is associated with Bloodsport at all. Like I didn't see them in the master list that's over on Squared Circle. But like that's a big up and comer in the whole hardcore deathmatch deal. Like guys like Nick Gage and Ricky Shane Page are kind of at the forefront of that. And Nick Gage has this whole persona of being that sort of rule breaking. Badass isn't the right word for it. Like it runs his mouth a whole lot. Like a little while back, he invaded a CZW show with someone else, and there's been a lot of debate over whether or not that was a shoot. So guys like him, I could definitely see flouting that rule. In this particular instance, I think it would be less of a fine and more like you are not allowed to work in the state of New Orleans again, or the state of Louisiana again. Which, since the WWE seems to like going back to New Orleans every few years, for a thing like this, that could mean you lose out on a lot of money.
True.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen if anybody will have the balls to kind of flout that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess moving on, kind of staying in the vein of indie wrestling, and we mentioned intergender wrestling a little bit ago. James Ellsworth, he's been kind of making a name for himself on the indies, or at least keeping himself in the headlines. Recently, he wrestled Nick Aldis, formerly known as Magnus, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And just recently, he has created an intergender world championship title. And he is going to travel around the country, presumably abroad, and defend it in various promotions. So that's kind of cool that he's decided to kind of take this legacy he built for himself in the WWE, so to speak, and kind of push the narrative, push the envelope on intergender wrestling. He's far from the first to carry that flag. Like Joey Ryan has been pushing that for a while now. Joey Ryan, Candice LeRae, other talent like them, Eva Lise and Lucha Underground. But yeah, do you think James Ellsworth is a good guy to kind of be the next standard bearer for that?
I don't really know exactly what kind of work he's done in the indies, so I don't know how seriously he's taken. I hope that he's not just doing the same shtick that he was doing in WWE, because then I don't think it would be taken very seriously.
Yeah, from what I've been able to gather, I haven't followed him real closely, but like in the NWA title match, it was definitely very much treated as a joke, at least initially. because Aldis said that he had been booked against a former world champion. He said he wouldn't defend his title unless it was against a former world champion, and like hyped it up for a few weeks, and then it was revealed it was Ellsworth, which, you know, technically speaking, he kind of was.
Right. No, he 100% was.
And I think since he was released from the WWE, he has played on that whole joke character that he had in the WWE. But, you know, he had a long time in the indies where he actually did hold titles in various promotions and was treated fairly seriously. So I don't think it's just him being a joke anymore. I think that at least with this title, I think he is going to try and play it pretty straight-laced.
If that's the case, then I'm all for it. You know, I think more intergender is not just welcome, but needed in today's WWE landscape.
Yeah, for sure. With the mixed match challenge, I think the WWE is trying to kind of get into that landscape, like at least kind of sideways.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're being so hesitant about it. I don't know if it's USA Network is just very anti-intergender wrestling, or they think advertisers are going to rebel if they show a man hitting a woman. I don't know, but it is something that they need to catch up with. It's something that everybody else has been doing to some extent or another for years now, some going on decades. So yeah, I hope this is just another little nudge that'll help push everybody into accepting that it's okay for men to wrestle women. It's okay for men to win against women. It's okay for women to win against men.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's especially, I think, the biggest idea that I would like to see go across the industry is it's not just okay, but it should be the standard that women can compete for the world title of their promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it shouldn't just be a little niche thing like in Lucha Underground. Yeah, it should be industry standard.
Sure.
Elsewhere, speaking of companies that have been on that particular ball, Impact has been making some interesting moves of late. Specifically in this instance, their partnership with Twitch, and they've already aired some matches there. Like for instance, the I'm blanking on the exact match name, but where LAX faced off against Ohio versus everybody. And the super hardcore match that Pop TV would not air, but they took to Twitch. Like matches like that have already been on there, but now they're having their first Twitch exclusive event. They're labeling it as a full on pay-per-view, and it's called Last Chancery. They have announced the main event. It is going to be Austin Aries versus Matt Sydal versus Congo Kong, and that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I have been less enthused with Matt Sydal over the past year or so. I feel like a lot of people's criticisms of him being just a goof have kind of been borne out. No pun intended. But yeah, even if you ignore his general weirdness, like is just being kind of a nuisance to people, the dude is still a very gifted athlete, even now. And to see him in the ring against Austin Aries, that'll be fun. And you throw in a monster like Congo Kong. I don't know if this is for the title. I kind of expect it to be, but I don't know for sure. But even if it's not for the title, like, this should still be a very fun match. They've cast Sydal as a heavyweight that can go with a guy like Congo Kong, with a guy like El Patron or Johnny Impact. Austin Aries is a long track record of being that kind of guy too. So yeah, I fully expect them to give Congo all the hell they can. We're going to see some interesting spots between those two, and I fully expect Kong to do his damnedest to flatten out both of them, probably at the same time. But this is kind of indicative of a larger trend in wrestling, where a lot of promotions have taken to Twitch to kind of be a platform for their content. Like Tommy Dreamer with the House of Hardcore, especially. Other promotions like Wrestle Circus have taken advantage of that. Do you think that that's a viable option? Or are places like YouTube Live or whatever the hell Facebook's platform is, Facebook Watch? Like,
yes.
Is that a viable option moving forward, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I think so, for sure. I mean, the cable is dying a slow, painful death, and I think jumping onto platforms like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, I think those are the media streams of the future. Look at the success of Netflix, look at the success of HBO's streaming platforms and whatnot, even the WWE network. That's, I think, the wave of the future. That's the way people want to get their entertainment. They want that sort of pick and choosy, each outlet is sort of a niche where they can kind of build their own cable program, so to speak, rather than just getting a million channels and you maybe watch 5 of them. So I definitely think it's very smart for any wrestling promotion to go that way and jump into that technology.
Yeah, for sure. I have yet to consume any of this kind of content on Twitch. I wanted to with the Barbed Wire Massacre match, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. There is a fuck ton of wrestling out there, and I have only so much time. But yeah, with Twitch, apparently you can watch replays of events for a certain time.
Yep.
I also think that if you're a subscriber of a particular channel, you can watch stuff on demand for a longer period. I may just be thinking of other channels, but yeah, it's a very interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Sure.
But elsewhere, just some minor indie news. And starting with New Japan, Evil has been pulled from the upcoming New Japan Anniversary show, their 46th anniversary show. Yeah, due to injury, I believe he suffered an orbital bone fracture. Not seeing any word on how long he's going to be out. It wouldn't surprise me if he was going to be out for a very limited time, because they're only announcing that he's out for the event on March 6th. So, yeah, just given the culture over there, they don't lay out for injuries unless it's like really, really serious. So I hope he does not screw himself over with just coming back too early. But yeah, best of luck to him. I hope he's definitely recovered before he decides that he wants to go after Goto for the never openweight title, because those matches are fucking stiff, and I definitely would not want him to just like bust his face open worse.
Sure.
In that match. Elsewhere, Scottish wrestler Wolfgang. He appeared in the WWE UK Championship tournament. He has appeared on NXT TV for a few appearances. Faced off against Pete Dunne for the UK title. Apparently, he's going to be showing up for future appearances as well. He had to pull out of a couple of bookings in the UK due to commitments to WWE. So there may be a contract in his future. I don't know. They play kind of fast and loose with contracts with these UK guys like Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne. But is that a guy you would want signed to WWE? Like, have you been impressed by his matches? Like, is he a guy you want to see stick around, Or is he not really tickled your fancy?
I kind of feel like it's sort of in the middle for me. Like, I do think he's been a fairly impressive talent, and that, you know, he works his matches well. The thing that I worry about is I wonder how far he would go in WWE, because he doesn't seem like the type of guy that they'd really want to put a ton of energy into. I could definitely see him being, you know, some sort of enhancement talent on the main roster or in NXT. But I hope that's what he wants, because I have a feeling that's what he's going to get in WWE. So in that case, you know, it's kind of up to him. I think if given the right program, he could do wonders for the company. But I don't know if the WWE sees him that way.
Yeah, I have not been blown away by what I've seen from him. My first exposure to him was when he won the ICW world title. I think he took it from Galloway. I'm not sure. But yeah, when he took the title, I just felt like it came out of left field. Like, he wasn't a guy that, from what I had been understanding, was on that level. Not compared to the talent that had been competing for it previously. And I thought he did well enough in the UK tournament. Personally, I would have preferred it had his first round opponent T-Bone gone over him. I just felt like he had a better gimmick, better presence, better idea of who he was. And I feel like nothing's really changed in the few times I've seen him since. Because they cast him as very much a big man. But like, they talk about how Jeff Hardy is one of his bigger inspirations. Like, he does the moonsault, and like, he does a lot of aerial stuff that when a big guy does it, it is impressive by itself, but he's not that big. And I don't feel like he does it especially well. I'm kind of with you in that I feel like they would put him in the undercard. And like, I feel like that's where he'd stay. Even if NXT in the main roster wasn't so stocked with raw talent, I don't know. I'm just not getting the vibe that he's a guy that can really go places in WWE, which is a shame, because I do like the guy. I think he's a good dude. I like the promos that I've seen from him, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. When you look at guys like Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne and even Trent Seven to somewhat of a lesser extent, I don't see that same personality. I don't see that same charisma that those three guys have. And when you're looking at the UK scene, I just feel like there are a number of other guys that they could use and would do better in that company.
Yep. Oh, spray. Sorry, I had something in my throat.
Yeah, I guess kind of segueing off of that that weird vocalization that was just out of nowhere. Kenny Omega has been added to the Cruise of Jericho, the Rock and Wrestling Rager, or whatever else he's calling it these days. He is confirmed to be wrestling. There is a tournament going on in that cruise, but Omega has not been confirmed for the tournament. I think the newsworthiness is just in that, you know, they fucking tried to kill each other in New Japan not too long ago. So, how will they interact at this cruise? Like, will Omega be an antagonist to Jericho, or have they kind of put it behind them as Jericho seems to have turned his attention to Naito? Who knows? How will Kenny Omega interact with the with the cruise ship director Dalton Castle? I don't know. Do you see that going anywhere in particular, or like is this just some interesting footnote?
Well, first of all, if like Omega and Jericho Not just in the scheduled things that are supposed to happen on the cruise, but like just spend the entirety of the cruise like smacking each other with chairs as they walk down hallways and shit. Like, I would be absolutely delighted and would be looking for a ticket on this cruise immediately. I don't think that's going to happen, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be a little scared for something like that to happen. Just
sure.
Like wrestlers just surprising each other in the hallways and in amongst the guests with weapon attacks and other assorted assaults. It's an interesting concept.
Sure.
I feel like that's like one of those metal cruise ideas where they'll have like a wall of death up there on the deck and just have people go nuts in the pit. But
yeah,
it's interesting in that how's he going to mix with the other Ring of Honor talent that's been booked to wrestle? Will there be any interactions with like the con regulars that are going to show up, like Scott Hall, DDP have been confirmed to appear, a few others like that. But yeah, who knows? It'll be interesting to see what shapes up with this cruise in general, because I don't think there have been any real matches confirmed. Just names for the tournament, other names set to appear and or wrestle, and that's kind of it. The biggest story I got a hoot out of was Dalton Castle being confirmed as cruise director, because you look back at his history, the man is eminently qualified, having been a professional yachtsman under his alias of, oh shit, what was it? I just had it. Ashley Remington, something like that. I'm going to look at the chat to see if it helps. Nope, nobody has come up with it. But yeah, again, it's just going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Ashley Remington, I got it right. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, good job, dude.
But yeah, that's going to do it for the news stories that have popped up this week. Just a quick glance at the mixed match challenge. Charlotte Flair and Bobby Roode did in fact defeat Nia Jax and Apollo. Just Apollo. It was confirmed earlier this week that they dropped the cruise name from the roster page. There's conflicting sources on why that happened. But yeah, to the surprise of no one, Charlotte and Bobby Roode are moving forward. I don't think they have released brackets on the second round. But yeah, that is definitely a thing.
Will we not need 2 more matches before the second round happens?
I'm pretty sure that there were only 12 teams.
Okay.
Pretty sure. I don't know. It's not really
That's
important.
Fine. Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, unfortunately. Something of note that took place on Raw, the gauntlet match that took place between all 7 competitors in this week's Elimination Chamber match. The biggest story to come out of that, the one without any kind of controversy or criticism attached to it, was Seth Rollins was in that match for well over half of it. An hour and 4 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, and he pinned both Roman Reigns and John Cena, and then got put away by Elias after like 5 minutes with him. And I feel like Rollins' segment of the match was really the only portion worth watching. Because I didn't watch it live, and I heard people talking about it. I heard people saying how nuts that was. And if I give all the credit in the world to that dude for wrestling that long, and it wasn't like your typical WWE long match where there's a lot of lying out. There's a lot of rest holds. There's a lot of just standing around and staring at each other to kind of pad time. Rollins went pretty hard for most of it. So at the very least, I give him that much credit. The dude is a phenomenal worker, and he's got a hell of a gas tank. But what did you think of the match, Adam?
So these type of matches are, I think, the matches that WWE, maybe not every week, obviously, but these are the type of matches that you take advantage of how much broadcasting time you have. You know, you have 3 hours worth of programming to put in. I think every now and again having a match like this on Raw is great. Putting that aside, having this as your go home Raw type match is kind of a weird place setting, particularly considering that this wasn't really for anything other than, I guess, a showcase of all the competitors. But even then, you don't really get a completely perfect showcase because not every competitor is facing against every other competitor. You know, Braun looked great against The Miz, but we've seen him destroy The Miz before. So what exactly did we gain from that? You know, Seth looked great against John Cena, but we've seen Seth be dominant against John Cena before. So while I am very appreciative of the work that Seth put in that hour and 4 minutes that he was involved, I can't help but think, what is it really for, you know, other than to possibly, you know, wear him down and make him look like less of a threat coming into the Elimination Chamber. So there's some odd feelings to it. I don't know exactly how I feel about it in the long run. I do wish, though, that Raw would take advantage of things like this in the future. You know, do something like Gauntlet match or something like back in the day when Cena and Michaels wrestled for like an hour and stuff like that. Like, you have the showtime. If you're just going to fill it with bullshit anyway, well, why not just make a really good match? You know, that's kind of my feelings on the whole thing.
Yeah, David Bixenspan wrote a pretty interesting article on long-form matches like this over on Deadspin. And he raised some decent points. Like, the WWE got away from these long-form type matches in the aughts and like the last decade. The 90s were just riddled with them. And that seems to have been where they peaked all throughout wrestling. Back in the NWA, like, that was pretty common to have 60-minute time limit draw matches, where you'd have the NWA champion go around to regional territories and have him face a local hero, and like the local guy would get over because he was able to push the champ to his limits, and that is a great storytelling device. It would happen throughout the indies, like Ring of Honor and elsewhere, with guys like Punk, guys like Chris Hero at the time, Daniel Bryan, Austin Aries. They would do that in Ring of Honor and a few other different places. And again, it was a good storytelling device, but they went to the well with it way too often. One example that was cited specifically was Daniel Bryan and Austin Aries in a 2 out of 3 falls match, where each fall had a 60-minute time limit, and it was supposed to go all 3 hours, but the crowd was pretty sour on it by the time the third fall had come around. And this was Ring of Honor. This was in the early years of Ring of Honor, where the fan base was at its most rabid, and it was at its most focused on wrestling over character. So for them to cut a match short like that, I think that kind of indicated just how tired everybody was of these Iron Man style matches. And the fact that, like, the last Iron Man match we saw in the WWE was Orton versus Cena, I think that's kind of indicative of how everybody had kind of just soured on the concept. but it's been making a little bit of a resurgence across the board, because you'll see people just throwing all kinds of praise at matches like Okada and Omega that went the full 60 minutes. And Rollins is being lauded and adored for his segment of the Gauntlet match. And again, I give all the credit in the world to Rollins for being able to go that hard. But this match didn't take place in a vacuum. I can't just look at it by itself. I have to acknowledge the fact that this is less than a week from the Elimination Chamber. And you've got all 7 guys in this match that are going to be competing in the Elimination Chamber. You're making Seth Rollins, who fucked up his knee twice not too long ago. You're making him go over an hour, and then less than a week later, you're putting him in an Elimination Chamber match. The most dangerous match for any wrestler. Countless wrestlers have gone on record in saying that. Ignore the fact that just booking 2/3 of your show with this one match is creatively bankrupt. That's incredibly irresponsible. For a guy like The Miz or a guy like Elias or a guy like Finn, guys like who aren't going to be in the match that long, that's one thing. But Roman, Cena, and Rollins were all in there for a fairly long time. Rollins obviously more than any of them. Why would you risk that? I don't understand why a company that is stretched as thin as they are with their roster, specifically due to injury, I don't understand why they would look at that scenario and think, yes, this is the best way to book this go-home show for our most dangerous pay-per-view of the year. That makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't get it. It's irresponsible. It's frankly pretty dumb. It doesn't surprise me. Like, they pull dumb shit like this all the time, but it's just mind-boggling. And I don't understand why you would focus on the men's chamber match this much, to the exclusion of anything else going on at the Elimination Chamber. In particular, the women. Because they threw all the women they had going into the chamber into one match again. And they only got 15 minutes. Nearly 16, but the men got 2 hours. For the first women's Elimination Chamber match, again, I don't understand why you focus exclusively on the men like that. Because in isolation, a 15-minute women's match is great. It's a tag match, sure, so you don't really let any one woman shine too much, but it's a 15-minute women's match. By itself, that would have been enough 5 or 6 years ago. But again, you can't look at things by themselves like that. They got a fraction of the time, and they had to share it with Titus Worldwide versus The Bar. They had to share it with a nothing talking segment between Wyatt and Hardy again. And that was kind of it on Raw. I feel like as a go-home show, this was nothing. This was just a really bad idea all around.
I agree, and I think what it is it's like going back to, what I was saying about blood in the news segment. It's choosing the best times to showcase things like this. I just think this was a good idea in theory, but in practice at this stage, building towards a pay-per-view and whatnot, I don't think it was the best. I think if you, like you had, alluded to before, if you had put this in a vacuum, put it in I don't know, like the stretch between the Rumble and Clash of Champions, let's say, or something of that nature, where it's going to be a good 4 to 6 weeks at least before there's another pay-per-view. Putting that as like the first show of the year or something like that. That's a good idea, or putting it like in the middle of summer when typically fan interest kind of wanes again up until SummerSlam runs around. Another great idea. I just think putting it here on this specific show at this specific time for nothing, by the way, because literally they had already decided who was going first and who was going last. It doesn't make any sense, Why would any of these competitors agree to compete knowing they have such a big match, and I know I'm thinking purely in kayfabe terms, which doesn't always translate to the real world, but still, even in kayfabe, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's like I said before, I'm not surprised when they pull dumb stuff like this, but like, even for a guy that is trying to prove that he is the man, is trying to make Monday Night Rollins a thing again. You have to be especially brain dead to put yourself in this kind of scenario less than a week before the Elimination Chamber, which I can't stress enough is the most destructive match for a wrestler's career that the WWE has. I don't know. It's...
And let's even take it a step further. You're 5-6 weeks out from WrestleMania, their biggest show of the year, when, take that it's personally Rollins out of the equation, you need all hands on deck, I think, booking that show. How fucking terrified were they when Rollins almost couldn't make last year's Mania?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you try and repeat that? Just a year hence, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
Yeah, even looking at it in kayfabe, like, Rollins just saw his tag team partner get wrecked in a match, not 2 weeks ago, or however long the Rumble was ago. He just saw his tag partner get taken out of the equation for an indefinite period of time, and not too long before that, he saw Ambrose get taken out.
Sure.
If there's any wrestler that would know that this could happen to me too, it would have to be Rollins. Like, it doesn't make sense on any level for him to take that risk.
Sure.
We could probably find a dozen more different ways that this was just a dumb idea all around, but
I still think good idea in theory.
Yeah.
Just not right now.
Yeah.
If you'd done it any other time of the year, I think it would have been better.
Exactly, because I think there's a lot of merit to what you proposed earlier. Like in the stretch towards SummerSlam, like there's typically a length of time where there isn't another show leading up to it. That'd be a great time to do that. Or in the off season, so to speak, let's say build up towards Survivor Series,
right?
Maybe there, but yeah, less than a week out from Elimination Chamber. But let's go ahead and, since we've mentioned it so often, let's go ahead and talk about the Elimination Chamber card that we have right now. So in the men's chamber match, which is for the number one contendership against Brock Lesnar at Mania, we have The Miz, who is going in first, and he is going to be joined to kick off the match by two other men. It's Miz versus John Cena versus Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins versus Elias, who will be entering last. Let's go ahead and predict this. We've already talked a lot about the dynamic of this match, so I think we set it up pretty well. But who do you see walking out of here with the number one contendership?
Oh, I mean, I'm riding the same horse that I've been riding the last month or so, last year or so, if we really want to be extremely precise about it. I think it's going to be Roman Reigns. It just everyone else, every other name that I look in here, while I can see making a decent main event match at Mania opposite of Brock Lesnar, I don't know. I mean, the only other person that sticks out to me is Finn Balor. But again, looking outside of the Elimination Chamber build, it doesn't seem like the WWE has any interest in that match at this present time. I guess Rollins, because Jordan's out and whatever payoff they were going to do with him and Jordan is not happening anymore. But I mean, even especially after seeing that display this last Monday, I don't know. I see that being kind of unlikely too. I think I'm going to, and I'm going to have a very mixed reaction if it does come to fruition. But I think I want to, because I feel like it's more fun to do so. I want to pick with my heart over my head, and I am going to pick Finn Balor to win. However, okay. I would not be.
Yeah, Roman Reigns seems like a very strong contender. That is who the live chat is going with unanimously. I feel like that is. It's hard to bet against him because make Roman Reigns look really, really strong. Like that is the ongoing meme. I am gonna stick with my long-running thought that they want Balor versus Lesnar because of the narrative of like Lesnar is the longest reigning Universal Champion, but Finn Balor never lost it. He never really got to hold it. So I feel like that's where they want to go with it. And they've been teasing other directions with Reigns as well. Simply because Roman Reigns eliminated Seth Rollins from the Rumble. But Seth Rollins has also gotten one over on Reigns as well, and they've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I think that we're going to see a similar scenario play out in the Chamber, and when neither of them win, I think we're going to see them start to butt heads. I don't think this will lead to a heel turn on either one's part, just because the crowd is really behind Rollins right now, and they just do not want to pull the trigger on Reigns for whatever reason. I think it's going to be, if they can't have Ambrose versus Rollins at Mania, like the rumors said they wanted, having Rollins versus Reigns, that's not a bad stand-in. So, yeah, I'm going to pick in favor of Balor. Looking elsewhere on the card here, I think just to kind of bookend our predictions, we're going to have predictions for the Women's Chamber last. But in a similar vein to the women's match, let's predict some Nia Jax versus Asuka. The stipulation here is that if Nia Jax defeats Asuka, that Nia Jax will be added to the WrestleMania title match. They are still unwilling to determine who is going to be putting their title on the line against Asuka. Is it going to be Charlotte? Is it going to be Alexa? According to WWE, no one knows. Despite the fact that they should have fucking announced the night of the Royal Rumble.
And where does Ronda Rousey end up in the whole thing?
I don't know.
No, I mean,
I legitimately do not know who will win this. Because there's arguments in favor of both. Asuka, you have her win. You just have her have a singles match against probably Alexa. It wouldn't surprise me if they had Charlotte, but you know, it's what's going to happen with Ronda. Yeah, I don't know. But with Nia winning, you know, it makes things a little more interesting, like especially if the Raw Women's title is on the line. but I feel like Nia's not the person to break that streak. The option does exist for, I don't know if a dusty finish is the right word for it, but a scenario where no one wins and just by default Nia gets added to the match because she didn't lose. She didn't technically win, but she didn't lose. Especially if the plan is for Alexa to be the one to defend her title. I think this is what I'm going to predict. I think I'm going to predict. What would it be termed? Like no a disqualification, count out? Yeah, that's where I'm going to lean.
I'm going to go ahead and pick straight out Asuka wins this. I think this is sort of pretty much the same way they've been booking her since she's been on the main roster. Just one more gatekeeper for her to go through. And I think Nia, it's unfortunate. I would like to see Nia be more successful on the main roster. But I think Asuka defeats her soundly. This is a similar situation to like, I guess that kind of leans more in Nick's favor, but similar situation to like Orton versus Ray or...
Yeah, it is definitely really hard to bet against Asuka. Because if Nia's going to lose to anybody, it would be Asuka, especially given how often Nia's been beating up on her in these last couple of weeks. I feel like the program is for the Raw Women's title, and I think they would want Nia in there to kind of muddy the waters a little bit, because given their storytelling, like Alexa Bliss stands absolutely no chance against Asuka. She doesn't even give Asuka a hard time the way Sasha Banks or Bayley have. So, like, that's why I think there will be no clear winner, like no pin or submission. But yeah, I definitely see the argument for an Asuka victory here, like just a straight up victory. Moving on, I suppose. Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt. And why the fuck are these two still fighting? Which I feel is a running theme with Wyatt.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any stipulation attached to this match, but where do you see this match going, Adam? Like, do you think this is where it does end? Like, this is where Hardy defeats Wyatt once and for all? Do you think Wyatt walks away with a victory and, God forbid, this continues?
I think this may be the program that Wyatt has going into WrestleMania this year. I don't know what else you would do with him leading into WrestleMania. So that makes sense to me. This could be where Jeff comes back. I don't know how healthy he is, or how close he is to a full in-ring return, but we may see that play some part in the finish. I don't know if it really matters to me who wins. I'm going to play favorites, and I'm going to pick Bray just for the heck of it.
Personally, it is really hard to predict this match just because I do not care one way or another. But just going off my gut here, it feels like they want this to continue till Mania. 'Cause I imagine they could do something cool for entrances at least with another Hardy Wyatt match. So I think I'm going to go with Wyatt. And I'm seeing in the chat as well that that is where Adam is leaning. Yeah, apologies for technical difficulties. Discord is being a little bit difficult. Yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about this match. It's another Hardy Wyatt match. And I think we got tired of that a while ago. Which brings us to the Women's Chamber match. Alexa Bliss is going to be defending her title against Sasha Banks, Bayley, Mickie James, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville. Now, I don't see any reason to take the belt off of Alexa. That has never stopped anyone from winning before, especially not Sasha Banks. I feel like all of this effort to get Mickie James on her side has to go somewhere. Just so like there's an even kind of playing field, because Sasha and Bayley are still friends for whatever reason. Mandy and Sonya are obviously together, part of Absolution. Mickie James is kind of the wild card, and they've got history together. And last night, or on Monday night, excuse me, they kind of solidified that alliance. Alexa never really went against Mickie. She actively avoided Mickie at a number of different points. And towards the end, Mickie saved Alexa from a beatdown in Absolution's hands. Alexa kind of reciprocated, and they worked together to clear Absolution from the ring. So I think we're going to see Mickie work together with Alexa at least partway through the match. And I think Alexa is going to be the last woman standing. I don't see anything changing in that regard. So, yeah, Alexa retains, holds the title through to Mania, where I imagine she will face Asuka and potentially Nia. And it's looking like that is where Adam leaned as well.
Yes.
All right, exactly. While we have you, is there any exposition you would like to offer on the subject?
No, I feel like how you painted the picture is probably how it's going to end up.
Good deal. And those 4 matches are the only official matches on the card right now. The tag team titles are currently not on the line. It seems likely that we are going to see a match between The Bar and Titus Worldwide, just because Titus and Apollo have kind of had The Bar's number for a little while. The possibility also exists that we'll see a pre-show match between the Club and the Revival. They've kind of butted heads a lot. Trying to think if there's anything else going on. There really isn't.
Not that I can recall.
Yeah. Just because it would be kind of bizarre for them not to have a tag team title match. In a confrontation between The Bar and Titus Worldwide, who do you have?
I picked The Bar. I don't see any reason to take the title off them. And especially not Titus Worldwide, who's been treated as like kind of an on-again, off-again team. So I think The Bar wins.
Solid reasoning. I could definitely see it going Titus Worldwide's way. Because there's been a lot of positive press behind Titus recently, specifically like with him raising in money to bring 2,000 kids to the premiere of Black Panther. It's since Apollo had his name changed, they dropped the crew's name, that just the fact that they're paying enough attention to him to have the name changed, that kind of, in my mind, indicates that they want to do something with him, because that's kind of been a bit of the pattern. Like something similar happened with Cesaro, something similar happened with Rusev, something similar happened with Elias, and they seem to be fine with hot potatoing the tag titles around. So yeah, why not have The Bar drop it to Titus Worldwide? That's just my little take on it. Plus, it would be neat if we stopped picking the same options so that one of us could actually win this thing.
Sorry.
Yeah. It a lot of the same ways that we picked just make a ton of sense. Like Elimination Chamber is not a narratively important pay-per-view. And those just Alexa Bliss and Finn Balor winning their respective chambers. It just makes a ton of sense. Wyatt beating Hardy, like, why the fuck not? But yeah, that's our chamber predictions in a nutshell right there. Just a quick overview of Fastlane, which is taking place in early March. They booked a few new matches for Fastlane last night on SmackDown. We already had the WWE title match between AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, and Baron Corbin. But they also added the New Day versus the Usos for the SmackDown Live Tag Team titles. The New Day defeated Gable and Benjamin in number one contender action. Which, by the way, Gable and Benjamin should have won that match if the referee had been on the ball and counted the pin as he should have instead of tending to Kofi. Charlotte Flair is defending the SmackDown Live Women's Championship against Ruby Riott as a result of the Riott Squad defeating Charlotte, Becky, and Naomi in 6-woman tag action. And Bobby Roode is going to be defending the U.S. title against Randy Orton. Presumably Jinder Mahal is not a part of this match as well because a lot of reports have said that he's been working through some injuries. So it makes a ton of sense why Mahal wouldn't be a part of this match. Presumably more matches to follow. But unless there is anything else that we would like discussed here, I think that's going to bring us to the close of the show.
Yeah, sounds right to me.
Then close we shall. You guys pretty much know the drill by now. You know where to find us. But in case you are a first-time listener and you don't, you can find all our stuff at fanstalkpodcast.com. That is our homepage. That is the hub for everything we do. You can find the archive for this show as well as other shows we have done there, as well as links to our Facebook group and our Discord chat. So that's where we're having the show aired right now. We've got people in the live chat responding to us, interacting with us. We also have live chats for events such as the upcoming Elimination Chamber. We are going to be having people in there for that, as well as for Fastlane and WrestleMania in the not-so-distant future. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Fans Talk Podcast. Go ahead and send us a topic that you like to discuss. If probably wrestling related, but even if it's not, use the hashtag AskFTPW. If you're consuming the show through an app like, or a podcatcher like Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or an app like SoundCloud or TuneIn Radio, anything else like that, please leave us a rating, leave us a review, give us your feedback on how we're doing, what you like, what you don't like. We'd love to hear from you guys. Next week, we are going to be unpacking Elimination Chamber. We're going to be talking about the results, what happened. Hopefully, we're going to be marveling at the fact that nobody was injured in any of the chamber matches. Hopefully, we're going to be surprised by the phenomenal 5-star classic that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt put on. One can hope.
It's true.
But until then, for Adam, Garvin, everybody in the live chat, my name is Nick. We'll see you guys next time here on Fans Talk Pro Wrestling. Good night, y'all.